Although the Book of Mormon had not been finished when Joseph decided to go to Fayette, New York, Joseph Smith was forging ahead with the translation of the Book of Mormon. Once he finished, 3 witnesses would be selected to view the gold plates in an angelic visitation. At the completion of the Book of Mormon, Joseph would be directed to organize a church, which he did in Fayette. How would it be organized? Who would be called to lead it, along with Joseph Smith? Was baptism necessary? All of these issues would be addressed in Fayette. Therefore, the big question became, why a church? And another big question became, what is the structure of the church? Just to comment on the completion of the translation of the Book of Mormon before we begin, Joseph and Oliver moved into a small cabin with the Whitmers upon his arrival to Fayette. He and Oliver translated the Book of Mormon on the 2nd floor of the small cabin. Joseph sat at a table with the plates under a cloth on the table. He peered into a hat with the seer stone in it. Words would appear on the stone, and he would dictate them to Oliver Cowdery, who would write them down. Joseph was not looking at the plates when he translated. Joseph and Oliver did not translate in secret. The Whitmers and others observed the translation process and reported on it. Clearly, this was a revelatory process. It did not involve translating an ancient language into English like you might translate French into English. One of the interesting questions was whether or not God put the translation on the stone, like looking at an iPad, or whether or not the revelation came to Joseph Smith's mind, and which was then reflected back on the stone, a theory that B.H. Roberts put forth. Roberts, by the way, was a member of the Quorum of the 70 at the turn of the century and wrote a multi-volume history of the church. I personally favor the Roberts approach because it seems more consistent with Section 9 in the Doctrine and Covenants. In this section, the Lord explains that the reason that Oliver was not able to translate the gold plates was because he thought that God would simply reveal to him the translation without any study and forethought. Others disagree with me on this point and think that the Lord put the words on the stone, a more mechanical approach to the rendition of the Book of Mormon. In any case, once the translation was finished, Oliver Cowdery, Martin Harris, and David Whitmer were chosen to be special witnesses along with 8 other witnesses. The 3 witnesses and the 8 witnesses testified about different things. The 3 had a spiritual experience, and the 8 had a natural or normal experience. The 3 witnesses were visited by an angel who showed them the gold plates and told them that the contents had been translated correctly. The 8 were shown the plates, much like you or I would show a friend a book that you owned. Joseph took the plates out behind the cabin in Manchester and showed them to the 8 witnesses. The 8 were allowed to heft them and turn the pages. The 3 established that the translation was by the gift and power of God. The 8 established that Joseph Smith had gold plates. As a lawyer, I could literally put the 3 and the 8 witnesses on the stand and ask them under oath what they saw and heard. One of the fascinating things about the prophet Joseph Smith is that he allowed others to see and experience the same things that he did. He did not say, I saw God, or I had gold plates, take my word for it. Rather, he said, come and experience these things for yourself. Take a look at these plates, touch them, turn the pages, heft them. In the case of the 3 witnesses who were shown the Book of Mormon plates by an angel, all 3 saw the same vision or had the same angelic experience. In broad daylight, fully cognizant. I know of no other religious leader that was able to do this. It adds real credibility to the experiences of Joseph Smith and his colleagues. Now to some more general background. Joseph's religious activities had not gone unnoticed in Harmony. Although he and Oliver had been careful never to publicly say anything about the appearance of John the Baptist, people generally knew that Joseph claimed to be translating ancient gold plates. Members of the community were suspicious, in part because Joseph was not willing to show the plates to just anyone, even family members such as Joseph Smith's father-in-law, Isaac Hale. As the general population became more aware of Joseph and his claims, controversy and misunderstanding increased, and the all too familiar pattern of persecution started all over again, leaving Joseph and Oliver feeling threatened. As tensions grew, Joseph needed more uninterrupted time to complete the translation of the Book of Mormon. As the situation in Harmony continued to deteriorate, Oliver decided to ask David Whitmer, a friend and associate of his, about the possibility of Joseph and Oliver moving to Fayette, New York, to board in David's parents' home. In response, David Whitmer's father, Peter Whitmer Sr., extended an invitation to Joseph and Emma to live with them in their log cabin home so that Joseph could find the solitude necessary for him to finish the Book of Mormon translation. David, who was living with his parents at the time, made arrangements to go to Harmony to help the Smiths move their belongings to Fayette. When Joseph arrived in Fayette, the translation process began in earnest. Once the translation was completed, Joseph's focus began to shift to missionary work and the establishment of the church. On April 6, 1830, interested individuals filled Peter Whitmer's small log cabin where Joseph Smith had been translating the Book of Mormon, and the church was formally organized. Up until this point in time, Joseph had been viewed as a charismatic prophet, not as an organizer. He was only 24 years old and had no experience leading a group. As the Mormon historian Bushman points out, Fayette marks the beginning of the formal organization of a religious society that would continue to grow until it filled the earth. In Section 20 of the Doctrine and Covenants, the structure of a church would begin to be filled out. The church's organization was modeled after the prototype of Jesus' community as described in the four Gospels, with an emphasis on faith, repentance, baptism, revelation, prophecy, and the gifts of the Spirit. Section 20 outlined the basic framework of the fledgling organization. It would be governed by Joseph and Oliver Cowdery as the first among equals and assisted by a lay ministry based on John the Baptist's restoration of the Aaronic priesthood. Lay elders, priests, and teachers were appointed to assist Joseph. As Section 20 explained, the church was to help men and women walk in holiness before the Lord.